Hi there, welcome back to the channel, Tum Energia martial arts. Niek, Magel helping us out today. Guys, today we're going to show you some bottom stuff from half guard. I'm going to use the lockdown, going to extend our opponent. I'm going to show you some sweet stuff. So let's get to it. And before we get started, by the way, we're wrapping our new ranked rash guards. I chose to be a white belt today to match my shitty jiu-jitsu, but we have new ranked rash guards coming out, white, blue, purple, brown, black belts. Yeah, check it out, Energia Fightwear. Let's get started. Okay guys, so let's look at half guard. Well, it depends on how far in the half guard he is. We have a video on the top passes from half guard. I'm gonna put a link right up the screen right now, ish. There you can see some passes from half guard. Today we're gonna look at the bottom side. It all depends on how far he is. If I'm still playing knee shield, there's a total different scenario. Today we're gonna look at when we kind of messed up and he's deep inside that half guard. Yeah, he gets his cross face in, his hip is on the mat, he's leaning in, he's turning my neck, so my spine is turned and I cannot bridge. Obviously I need to maintain this half guard in, yeah, and it's pretty hard for me now to re-guard or to sweep him. So what I want to do is I want to first have you guys focus on the hip placement. We discussed it in the top video. If Niek's hips are on top of my hips, so this knee is free, it's easier for me to roll him over, to trap this arm, throw him over, yeah, or to go to the opposite side. So he's placing his hip on the mat. Now my whole goal is how to get that hip back off the mat. I'm going to show you how to use that, and then we will switch angles so you can see the opposite side. So I want to keep this knee line in between my half guard. Yeah? If I slide down or if I switch my legs, his knee is free and I don't want that. So his knee is trapped within my half guard. I'm going to use this free foot to find his heel and kick it a little bit back to make space. So I can use my squeeze and unlock, or I can keep the lock and try to get that space there and kick it out. Now I'm going to weave my right leg underneath his shoelaces here on the instep of his foot. Yeah, and then I'm gonna extend. This is called a lockdown. Yeah, Eddie Bravo uses this to great extent. Be sure to check that out. So my legs are triangled. My free foot is going to find his heel, kick it out before he gets the opportunity to walk his leg up. Then I find the instep of his foot and the shoelaces, and I extend. And I slide my left leg from my triangle downwards to my ankle as well. Now my whole goal is not to kick him away. You see this? My whole goal is to get his hip off the mat. So I keep a tight control and I extend towards the mat. Now you see, it hurts his leg and his hip just came off the mat. You'll see that from a different angle in a second. Now if only I use this to keep the shoulder pressure off and to prevent him from doing a good pass, that's all worth it. We're gonna do more from here. So one more time. Now we'll ask Niek to put some shoulder pressure here without messing up the microphone. So just put some pressure, please. Yes, like this. So he's keeping pressure. Now I use this lockdown to get the pressure off. Now put some pressure, please. It's hard for him to reach. Yeah, his hip comes off the mat as I square back up on the mat. Now that I will use later on to get to the guard. We'll see from a different angle. Now just to stay on topic here, there's a few ways for him to clear the lockdown. It also becomes harder for him to now push my knee off in the half guard because he has to reach lower with his arm. Please push the knee off. It's a bit lower now. It's harder for him to push off as opposed to when we're here. Try to push the knee off and shake, etc. Yeah. Now also from this same lockdown, as I kick out and extend, if he starts bending his leg back towards me, or I use this foot to take his leg towards me, turn my toes to the inside of his knee, step over and bring his heel towards his butt to get a calf slicer here and maybe get a submission. Now I say maybe because some guys will just toughen this out. It's not a very strong calf slicer, but it's there and it could annoy your opponent and some people just tap to it. One more time, you have the lockdown. We extend. This is just like you use in a truck, for instance, yeah? Also put a link to the truck video if you want to see that like configuration. I extend him. My main goal is to get his hip off the mat and his shoulder pressure off. Then I can bring his heel towards his butt, step over and keep curling it towards him as my toes and my shin point towards his knee, and I hip in and get a small calf slicer there. Now let's see what happens on the opposite side. So you can see how we're going to re-guard from there. So in any time my opponent is in my half guard, and his knee is on the mat and his hip is up, I can re-guard. Now in this case, he puts his hip on the mat, he puts shoulder pressure. So I'm gonna use this lockdown, kick his heel out, go to the shoelaces, and I'm not gonna extend away, I'm gonna lift his hip on top of my hip here. And I can use this hand to maybe aid a little bit. Now I keep him here on top of me with his hip. So try to put your hip back on the mat. Pretty stuck now due to the lockdown. I'm gonna block his hip or his knee. I'm gonna AB out and bring my knee to my chest as I bring it out. Now I can either keep it here with a butterfly hook and start using that to sweep him over and maybe get that hook sweep. Or I can pommel that leg back in. So in this case, my foot is stuck. I'm going to squeeze my knee towards his obliques, I think it's called, to the side of his body. I'm going to squeeze it in and windshield wipe my foot out to go back to close guard with his posture, start attacking from there. So let's see that one more time. Half guard, yeah, finding the heel, extending with the lockdown, bringing his weight on top of me, blocking his leg, getting my knee in. Now usually his hip drop, drops to the side, I can use this hook to sweep. If he brings his knee back to the mat, I rotate, go back to my close guard. Yeah, so I just use the lockdown to keep the shoulder pressure off, get the hip away, extend him away from me, make it hard for him to pass, and then use the lockdown to re-guard or to maybe sweep, which would also be better because I will score points to get a top position. There is also a calf slicer there. Now finally, let's look at the upper body for a different technique. So the upper body game, let's switch angles, please. So in this case, I'm gonna assume the lockdown doesn't work or he has his leg too far up. Now, eventually, most people will try and push this knee off. Yeah, just old school technique. You'll start shaking, push the knee off, and pass to the quarter mount. Okay, so as soon as he starts pushing on my knee, I'll just try and annoy and strip the grip. You can use the gi, if he's wearing a gi, to strip it off, or catch the wrist, pull it towards you. If you want to, you can also overhook this arm, so when he starts to push the knee off, he's strapped, you just delay here till he gets frustrated. Now eventually he'll reach far up and start pushing that knee down. That's when this hand comes in. Instead of stripping it and him trying to be back so I cannot strip it, I go behind and grab the inside of his elbow, preferably around his bicep instead of his wrist. If I grab the wrist, he can extend his arm. And if I grab the inside of his elbow, extend your arm, please, I'll just keep control there. Now the fun part begins. I keep control of this arm, like a form of a kimura on the back side of his body. Now if he tries to push the leg off, it's hard. So the only way to get this arm back, push it forward, please. That's hard, even with one hand. The only way to get it back is to circle out of it. And as soon as he leans back a little bit, you see the chest and shoulder pressure, I will bridge, and I'll get my sweep. Score 2 points, get the top position, and start fighting from there. Understand? So I need to wait until Niek releases the shoulder press in his chest, which he will do to free that arm. So he's keeping good shoulder pressure. Yeah, the only reason we're not pushing that hard is because I'm afraid it will mess up our audio, and I hope you guys can still hear this. So I have the half guard, he starts pushing my knee off. I just strip the grip, I annoy him. As soon as he gets frustrated, overcommits, I grab the arm here. Now get your arm out. And you'll find people will lean a bit back to get that arm out. Now there's a small window of opportunity for me because his weight is too much to the side and I have to quickly bridge. I cannot bridge with this foot, I'm not very strong. So I switch, trap this leg like so, free this one. I have to be aware, if I just stay here for too long, he will just backstep out and he's free. So it's a timing movement. I have the half guard, he's focused on this arm, and as soon as he's trying to get that arm out, I switch and I roll over, using my bridge, using this arm, and get back to his close guard. I will then have to pass his guard, but I've just scored 2 points and get a top position. One time from this side so you can see what's happening with the arm. Half guard, do not get to manage to get my lockdown. I cannot get his hip off the mat, I cannot re-guard. He's too heavy for me to sweep on either side, I have no space. Yeah, so I just take off the shoulder pressure a little bit, and I just start stripping this hand. Just focus on his elbow, strip it off, strip it off. As soon as he overcommits, this hand goes behind, and I trap the inside of his elbow. Yeah, I like to keep control of this wrist, so if he tries to pull out, it's completely stuck. And as soon as he's leaning away a bit to get that arm out, I bridge and get my top position. There you have it, just a few ways I wanted to show you today how to deal with the half guard from a bottom position. If he's fully in, getting some pressure, shoulder pressure, your life is misery, trying to escape and sweep. Using the lockdown, be sure to check that out. Just Google lockdown or YouTube for lockdown. You see some basic stuff from there, or link it to a truck video. And then finally trapping that arm backside, yeah, and throwing them over, scoring your points. Thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one. Peace.